What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be doing a deep dive of the 2024 to 2025 Seattle Seahawks. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Let's get right on into this. The link tree is going to be great for getting connected everywhere else, especially Twitter, where I post a lot, or X, depends on what you want to call it. And then also UnderDog Fantasy. They have a lot of really good specials out right now. And actually, as of today, you guys get up to a $1,000 match. No more of the $250 bonus cash, $1,000 bonus cash upwards of when you do your first time deposit. So now's better time than ever. So get that right. Get it in. Get yourself some free cash and enjoy yourself, because I'm using it. Feel free to follow me on Twitter again, because I post whenever I do bets there. So let's get on into this. This is going to be a 3-part series all in one video. It's going to be a roster breakdown, as well as a draft class breakdown, as well as a records prediction, even though I said that in the wrong order. Let's talk about the draft class. So Byron Murphy was your first overall selection. He is awesome. I mean, he's just someone who kicks ass, and you guys have seen it already. That I think, if I'm not mistaken, like, he's just been unbelievably dynamic. Like, so far, maybe he's not the most splash player that you could have drafted at that spot, sure. I mean, you got quite a few other players that were available at that point, but regardless of that fact, I thought you guys did a great job maximizing value, especially with Jaron Reed going to be up for a contract. We're going to be talking about him in a second. Byron Murphy's right in line to be the successor at that position, and you guys end up being able to get like really good continuation plan there, good health in terms of rotational, like you keep the guys fresh. I love it. I really do. Then you got Christian Haynes. I had my issue with Christian Haynes in terms of his anchor on a consistency basis, but he looks to have improved that. He was one of my top 10 players coming into the year. Ended up being around definitely in the top 64, not mistaken. Like, he's someone who I still really did love. Thought I needed a little bit more development, but one of those guard spots needs to have some continuation plan there, in my opinion, and Christian Haynes is perfect for that. Tyrese Knight with the 4th round selection. This was like the ideal team, in my opinion, for him to go to. He's the definition of boom or bust, but those boom plays were absolutely phenomenal at UTEP. You can go again, check out on Twitter. Just literally do, like, you go to my page and you hit the little like magnifying glass, and then you end up typing in Tyrese Knight, and you'll be able to see the clips where I really did fall in love with him. I thought that was a fantastic move. You guys did a really good job fixing your linebacking core and just kind of retweaking it all within one offseason. AJ Barner at 121. Not necessarily my favorite pick, but he is just going to be a really solid blocking tight end. Like, it's not like it was a bad thing. When you're looking at within your division with Tip Ryman and the Cardinals, that was in near pick 81. Like, this is just far better value for a similar impact. And I know it's going to piss off Cardinals fans because they love their Tip Ryman, and I love Tip Ryman, but you have to look at context here. And AJ Barner at 121 was still pretty damn early, but again, when we're looking at it in comparison to pick 81, I can live with it. Nehemiah Pritchett was the 136th pick. Right now, he is right cornerback number 2 on your depth chart according to Our Lads. That's really, really good value. And I like Nehemiah Pritchett for a long time. He just didn't really come out. He was always consistently like a 3rd rounder. And then, the older he got, the more injuries he's got. Like, it does make sense why he would be around that 5th round range. But the talent still is the same. So Toa Laumea, looking at him right now, he's actually the right guard 3 behind Christian Haynes. I really did think he needed to kick into guard because his tackle play was genuinely awful. I mean, he just wasn't a good player. And he had a lot of upside. He was one of the players where it's like, I absolutely detest you as a tackle, but I do have some faith in you developing as a guard. So that's really good depth there. And this is a great spot for him to use his feistiness to be able to develop and fit the scheme very, very well. DJ James, for some reason, is behind Artie Burns in the nickelback room. He actually might not even make the team based on what I'm looking at right now. And again, this is Our Lads' projected depth chart. But at the same time, how many teams are going to carry 3 nickelbacks, especially when you have a good amount of players who can be rotating in and out of there. I'm hoping DJ James can get out of that and like be able to maintain his roster spot, because as a Steelers fan, I just have a negative bias towards Artie Burns. I'll admit it, but I'm really hoping that DJ James is successful, because I love the idea of him and Nehemiah Pritchett developing and being able to take reps together, just like they did at Auburn. And then you got Michael Jarrell out of Finlay. I know that I'm pretty sure Finlay is an international program. It doesn't count against your overall amount of players on your roster because of the NFL program from abroad. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. That's still something I'm developing knowledge on. And, I always say be a dick, just don't be a dick about it. I'm perfectly fine being told that I misquoted something or did something wrong. I'd rather do it once than do it more times. So let's get on into it. Let's talk about the offense here. And it's certainly a good group of guys. I mean, B plus, I've tossed a lot of those around this offseason. This is very much a fringe A minus squad. It's primarily looking at the offensive line in terms of health as to why I'm really uncomfortable pushing it into the A range. But we'll start out with skill position, go to line, then for defense, line to skill position. If you guys are not new to the series, the hell do I have? I have some shit. I have a shirt hanging on my chair. I'm like, what in the hell is back there? By the way, this shirt is fire as hell. If you guys have a Hollister near you, you guys need to be running because these shirts are phenomenal. But my bitch ass is going to lay that down right there. No, I'm not going to edit this out because you know what? Having a reality, like a real side to me rather than just being a robot spewing out facts, I think that's where I actually enjoy YouTube. So, Geno Smith, quarterback, love him. Honestly, the fact that he's progressed so much throughout like the late stages of his career is a big testament to why you shouldn't just give up on quarterbacks. And I think there's a reason why we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks, including guys like Sam Howell, not Sam Howell. I mean, Sam Howell is an example, but we're talking about Sam Darnold. Like, even though he's pretty much on his, fourth or fifth team at this point, he is still somebody who is going to be getting those shots and those opportunities because you do see that certain guys click with certain systems and they develop into the quarterback they were supposed to be. So shout out to Geno for giving a lot of hope for a lot of maybe hopeless products. Looking at the running back position, you got Kenny Walker there. I mean, I could have mentioned Sam Howell as well. I really like Sam. He's somebody who will have another year left on his deal. So people who are pretty much guaranteeing a quarterback in the first. I mean, I think that quarterback would not be a bad idea in the mid rounds to select, but again, you have to evaluate what the value of those players are going to be. The quarterbacks, a lot of them in this year's class are very, very developmental. In this coming up class, very, very developmental. So I don't think they're going to provide very much more than Sam Howell would. However, if you're in the mid rounds and you see somebody that can compete with Sam, you get 4 years of a cheap contract. That's where you can start justifying it. So people who are saying guaranteed first round pick have no idea what they're talking about. But running back, Kenny Walker is a beast. I love him to death. Zach Charbonnet, former high school teammate. Go Oaks. I love Zach. He's somebody that I have a strong personal connection to. So I'm going to try to put my bias aside, but somebody who I have a lot of respect for. I think he's a nice 1-2 punch there with Kenny. Deep down, I'm still pissed that he's on your team because I wanted him to go to a team like the Cowboys where he could be a true 3-down back. But you know what? You guys are getting the spoils of said riches. Look at the receiving room. You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. A really, really, really good starting trio. I'm a big fan of that. Dwayne Eskridge, D. Eskridge, whatever you want to call him. Still someone who has all that potential, second round pick. A lot of us, including myself, fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl, and we were hoping that he'd be far more than what he is now. But unfortunately, not the case. Looking at tight end, you got Noah Fant, AJ Barner. It's kind of like not Jekyll and Hyde, but they're very complementary. Fant, to me, is far more of receiving tight end. AJ Barner, far more of the blocking type. So you do get a nice balance there. But I do think it is, again, when you look at the rest of the NFL, we're not talking about Fant and Barner as, the best of the best. I know that you guys might want to. And I mean, Farrell Brown's technically above AJ Barner. But we're not talking about them in the top 15. And to me, that's a weakness. And that's something that can be improved. It doesn't mean it's weak, right? Like, that's the big key, is that we're talking about reference. Compared to other teams' tight end rooms, I do think there is something to be wanted with this one. And, after losing Colby Parkinson, another teammate of Zach Charbonnet's, as well as my own from high school, that was a big loss in my opinion. I think he's the future of the tight end room for the Rams, but that's also a big kick in the nuts because that's in division. I digress. I think that there is a lot of development that is needed there in that tight end room. But looking at the offensive line, Cross and Lucas on PUP right now. So technically George Fant is the scheduled right tackle until Abraham's able to get healthy. But Abraham Lucas has been dealing with a lot of health issues. Y'all know it. He's not someone who's reliably available, especially in the long-term vision of the team. George Fant, though, he's actually statistically better than Abraham Lucas. It might be a blessing in disguise, and I hate saying that because I liked Abe Lucas coming out. You got Charles Cross, though. He hasn't been the superstar left tackle that maybe you guys would have wanted, including myself. I think he was my tackle 2 that year. Trying to remember properly, but it doesn't even matter anyways. I was a fan of the pick. I thought it was good value. It's always good to invest in your offensive line, but Charles Cross still has his respective issues. It's not like he's a bad left tackle, but for a top 10 pick, I think he might have been at number 10. It still has its own concerns. But looking at the interior of the offensive line, Tomlinson, I'm not fully sold on Laken Tomlinson. Connor Williams statistically is the best offensive lineman you have, him and Fant, which is quite mind-boggling because if you asked me, just with no context, who I thought would have been the best at this point in their career, I would have went probably Cross, Bradford, and then someone who I didn't even list as a notable backup, Olu Oluwatimi. I really thought those 3 would be the superpower. And Bradford's far from bad. He's just developmental. He's a LSU right guard that was really, really strong in the run game. Sounds a lot like Satoa Laumea. But, for me, I'm very questionable in terms of the efficiency of this offensive line. The fact is, you see a billion highlights of Geno as a passer being able to show that he has the ability to be a top 10 quarterback. You look at these passes, and not every quarterback in the NFL is going to be able to make them. He makes special plays, and he does it on a relatively consistent basis. So I do think that there is something lacking in terms of what the offense could be able to produce, that the offensive line is not necessarily allowing them to get. Feel free to push back on that. Again, I respect it, but when you look at the weapons that this team has and the fact that Geno is not a bum, it does bring into question whether the offensive line is the thing holding him back or not. Because it's the offensive line or it's the quarterback. It sure as hell ain't the weapons. But continuing on, we'll talk about the defense right here. Going from defensive line to those skill positions. Leonard Williams, he's very, very solid. Y'all know it. He's rock solid. He's been fantastic since he was on the Jets. He's been super reliable. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. But maybe he's not talked about at all, but he's somebody that deserves respect nonetheless. Hankins has been, it's just a name that I'm not really overwhelmed by it, but when you do look at the depth in terms of nose tackle, you got Cam Young, who's on PUP list right now, and then Kyron Barrs. That's not good. It is certainly very, very weak of a position in terms of depth. I know you can always substitute guys in there, but you want guys of legitimate mass to be full-time space eaters, and health is a big issue there. If you're not healthy, you can't start sticking smaller guys to plug up bigger holes. Pause. But continuing on defensive end, you got Jaron Reed backing him up, Byron Murphy, and technically my boy DeVere Levelston from SMU. Pony up, baby. But we'll see if DeVere actually makes the 53. He's definitely someone who I think they would love to bring back onto the practice squad, and I'm really hoping again for that 53. But there's a certain point. Y'all know if you play Madden at all, it's pretty tough to cut down your roster from 75 plus dudes down to 53. However, DeVeris have made some plays, and I do love that about him. Looking at that rush position, again, these are positions listed by our lads, but it essentially, you got Sam linebackers and rush that kind of work in a hybrid pass rushing role. You got Draymond Jones there, and he got those big bucks a couple years ago. It might have been last year. I just know it's like he was a free agency acquisition that got paid some big bucks. He's a solid player. And then behind him, you got Boye Mafe as well. Cannot not mention Boye Mafe. He theoretically could be a starter above Nwosu or Draymond Jones, theoretically. And I can guarantee you he's getting a ton of reps because he's a very good edge rusher. But have to put that in there. Darrell Taylor technically still also on roster. But good group of guys. Looking at those linebackers, mentioned Uchenna Nwosu at Sam. Derek Hall is backing him up. So again, that's going to be more of a pass rushing position. But Sam linebacker is an interesting position to say the least in terms of the application on given formations. So leaving it right there. Other linebackers, you got Tyrell Dodson. That was a good signing. 1 year, even though he just came off a really good year as well. So I'm sure that he kind of wants a prove-it deal, and this is a great spot for him to do it. And then you also have Jerome Baker, who is just very, very reliable throughout his entire career. Always a good athlete, undersized nonetheless. But what's interesting is that Tyrese Knight, who, if I'm not mistaken, is in that 240 range. He's the one backing up Javon Baker. I feel like he's more of a Mike, but if he has to be a Will, he has to be a Will. I don't really give a damn. So you guys have a really solid linebacking core right there. I like that a lot. I do have that as your best unit in terms of the Mike linebacker. I do think that Tyrese Knight should be at least considered as a flex between Will and Mike. But looking at the safeties, you got Rayshawn Jenkins. I mean, he's just been around, solid veteran, man. I mean, people will try to shit on him. He's a solid player. Then you got Julian Love there as well, who proved last year to have a lot of upside. We'll see. Pretty sure, didn't he just get his deal? Turns out he did. There's a reason why I didn't have, I was like reading, I'm like, he just signed a 3-year, $36 million deal. So good for him. I already know some people are going to try to fact check me. And hey, you're being a dick. Just don't be a dick about it. That's my big dick check. Pause. That was not supposed to happen. But I really love Julian Love. Glad that he got that money. Good for him. It's like deep down, I knew that he was going to get I knew he got a deal. So then you got Trey Brown there as well. I do see him as a bit of a liability at that boundary position. Of course, you do have some extra depth there as well. Nehemiah Pritchett technically could be left or right. Tariq Woolen, I mean, I'm excited for him to get back into those considerations as one of the best, if not the best, at his position. And then Devin Witherspoon, fantastic defensive back that you took ahead of Jalen Carter, which theoretically you could have put him at nose, and then you would have arguably the best defensive interior ever, but is what it is. You guys definitely got yourselves a really good player, so thank God it didn't bust out. But let's get right on to the records prediction. And let's make sure that we forget about the fact that I didn't change my graphic until the end of the video. Now, jumping into the records prediction, we have a 6-1 start. Because yes, this is cumulative, and yes, this is essentially going from 32 to 1. But we've done a really good job so far. Obviously, if things do feel like they need to be changed, they will be changed. But let's get right into this. And, first week, feel comfortable with that game. The Broncos are just a far inferior team. They have a lot of unknowns. They're still getting everything checked off. You're just the superior team. With the loss of Judon, it's not even a question to me that the Patriots will lose week 2. Of course, the NFL always knows how to do that random number generator and then prove us all wrong the moment we feel comfortable. The Dolphins are coming off a mini bye and are coming to town. The Dolphins are a good squad, a really good squad. However, I do have some trust that the Seahawks will have adequate pass rush and just a really stout enough defense to where I think the offense with the ground and pound will be able to take advantage. And I'm not really a huge supporter of Miami in comparison to Seattle when Seattle's at home. If Miami were at home, I'm giving this game to Miami 10 out of 10 times. It's a really close matchup, but Miami really is that type of difference maker. Detroit at home, I mean, I think they're a powerhouse and you're getting to face them at their home. I do think home field advantage plays more of a factor than what people want to admit. At the end of the day, you are playing in an area that you're comfortable with fans who are comfortable with you, and you don't have any jet lag. Like, there are minute factors that can end up playing into a game where minute factors make the big difference. At week 6, you got San Fran coming to town for Thursday night football. It's going to be a tough one. I do think San Fran still probably the team to beat in the NFC, them and the Eagles still. I will be giving you that because we're going to be splitting it. When you're at home, I also do think that there's this around this midpoint of the season when people start losing faith in Brock Purdy. It happens. It's happened like 2 times now. And maybe this is where some of the cracks start popping up before they make their playoff ascension. Week number 8, Buffalo comes to town, and I'm like deeply considering going and selecting the Seahawks for this one. Off a mini bye, though, like I do think that, you do have, I mean, to be fair, the Falcons are a pretty big juggernaut at the moment with adding, on top of Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, as well as Matt Judon. It would be very tough not to choose the Falcons at this point. I might go the Falcons. I think they do run the NFC West. So I'm actually going to give them that game because of the fact that their secondary is now very, very powerful. It's not like Justin Simmons is a complete waste of crap. Like he's not a waste, but I do think Buffalo will struggle a bit this year. you guys will be taking advantage of that. LA's coming off a mini bye. If I see that there's any extra time given to McVay, and especially when I have my prediction that McVay, this is like his last year, I'm going to be giving him all the chances I can get. Coming off a bye and facing San Fran, it does kind of even the odds here, but I've already given you a victory for them. I'm definitely not saying you're going to sweep the Niners. But I do think that you are a semi-superior team to the Cardinals because the Cardinals are underrated. But I do think off an extra week of rest, like it certainly could end up being a little bit of a slump right here. I do think that you might end up losing to the Jets as well. You're going to New York. It's a later part of the year. They have extra rest. I'm going to be giving New York that game. Green Bay has some extra rest here, and I almost want to pull the same thing as LA, but Green Bay is a very, very, very talented roster. I will, however, be giving it to y'all. You have the home field advantage, and I do think that the skill set is relatively close enough to where I can, roll the dice. And at week number 17, we have the Bears hosting y'all on Thursday Night Football. I do think the Bears are a powerhouse team. Very, very underrated squad because, except for by Bears fans, we all know that the Bears are going to do whatever the hell the Bears want to do. But we'll come back to that game. I do think that this is the year for McVay to really, really push the team. But I do think Caleb Williams might be a little bit more timid under the lights than maybe what the talent will suggest. I will be giving the veteranship of Geno Smith the nod there. But I do think McVay is really trying to make that final push in his final year, leaving us at a record of 10-7, which is second best right now in the NFC. I do think that you guys will be one of the teams making the playoffs. Just spoiler alert there. If something does change, like theoretically, I can shift this game back. I should do that. I should respect it. It's a very close game. It's a very close game. I'll be shifting it back. I'll give you guys 11-6. But this is a game that I do feel a little bit better for Atlanta. They are in a dome, though, early on from Kirk's injury. We'll see what happens. But to be fair, I do think that it is fair to go and give you guys the game that I originally gave to you guys, even after evaluating the Falcons after the Judon trade. So we'll leave it as is. There you go, Falcons fans. You don't get 13-4. But at 11-6, we'll see if that ends up beating out any of these other rosters in the NFC. The NFC is very, very top heavy at the moment with a lot of teams that are definitely giving some free wins here and there. But we'll see what happens when the new year comes around. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.